Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome to the 73rd episode of the Tango Banter. I am your host, Yelizaveta. Today, my guest is Oliver Kolker, an actor, film producer, and tango dancer who has been on the scene since the 1990s. Tango as a dance had a dormant period between 1970s and early 1990s. During that time, the dance, tango, was considered to be for old people, and younger people preferred more contemporary music. Oliver was one of the new wave of tango dancers who came on the scene in the late 1990s and ended up revolutionizing the dance. In this interview, we bantered about what led him to tango, what the scene was like back then, and how it changed over the years. We also talked about his tango film projects, including a recent film that he released called Fermin. Talking with Oliver reminded me how young tango is. It has such a recent history. It was fun to reflect on how it's changed and philosophize about what it's going to be in the future. I hope you too will be inspired by this episode, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy my banter with Oliver Kolker. I read in your biography, the little biography I found on a website, that you were born in New York, but you went to Argentina when you were 3 years old.
When I was 4.5, yeah.
4.5.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Buenos Aires in the first place?
No. I mean, my parents were living in the States. My father is a physician. My mother is a lawyer. And when my father finished medical school in Buenos Aires, they moved to New York, and they decided to stay there for a while. And I was born there. And then after 4.5 years, my mother told my father, we have to face this tough decision. We have to think with our pockets, or we have to think with our hearts. And guess what they decided?
They decided to move back?
Yeah,
they decided to split up.
No. Right. No, they decided to move back to Buenos Aires, and that's where I grew up my whole life. But I went to the States zillion times.
Yeah.
Many times.
I have to say, I heard your name way before I knew who you were. That when I was a baby tango dancer and I was first going to Buenos Aires, I would just hear this name, Oliver Kolker, and I'm like,
Really?
who is
Wow.
this person? Yeah,
Wow.
and then eventually when I started, learning a little bit about you, I was like, is he American or is he
Right.
Argentinian?
Well, I'm American.
Like, it's
No.
so, I think you sort of embody so many qualities that it's hard to pin down exactly your identity without really getting to know you. So I thought that was really interesting, because I myself am sort of a transplant in that same way, that I was born in Iran, and then I grew up in Africa, and then I grew up part of my
Wow.
time in Russia. So I have like a similar, I guess, experience of just being all over the place growing up.
I would never guess that you were born in Iran. Never.
I know, right? Never.
Ever.
Yeah.
The rest of the things that you grew up in Africa, or that you lived in Russia. Even if you've told me that I was born in Russia or Ukraine or Estonia or Latvia, great. But Iran, never guessed.
Yeah,
Never.
yeah. So what was it like for you when you first encountered tango? And I'm so curious, was this something that already you were exposed to, or was there a pivotal moment when you got introduced to tango?
Well, I was introduced to tango since I was raised in Argentina, because I spent many hours with my mother's side my grandmother on my mother's side, my my grandparents on my mother's side, that they were from Argentina. They are from Argentina, of course. And she used to be a amateur tango singer, the typical grandmother who sings tango all the time. And I used to watch TV, all those black and white movies that we used to see from Argentinian productions in the 40s and the 50s. But that time in 1975, they were still showing. We had only 2 channels, or 3. That's it. That's Argentina. And then I used to grow up watching this tango show that everyone who is my generation, between 45 and 70 years old, every Saturday we used to see this show that is called Great Values, Grandes Valores, Great Stars of Tango, where tango singers were singing all the time, and the big orchestras, and there was this MC, this TV host who was interviewing all the tango stars. And actually Fabian Salas and some of the dancers used to dance in this show, but nobody paid attention to the dancing part. Not even this. Yeah, it's very interesting. Nobody paid attention to it, and when you see the videos that they're all on YouTube, you see that the dance is not as developed as now, and so quirky, and all these choreographies were so weird, but nobody paid attention back then to the tango dancing part. We're talking about 1979, 80, 81, 82, 83. And then I got introduced into tango because I used to go dancing every weekend since I was 14. I love dancing, but I used to go to discos, to clubs, and I was very young. I was 14 years old, and I remember that I used to love dancing, moving, but I didn't know that you were able to learn how to dance. I always take the same example that when I remember clearly when I had this partner at school, first grade, that used to draw very well, and I knew exactly that I was not going to be able to draw that well, like naturally drawing. And I always thought about dancing the same thing, that you either know how to dance or you do not, that you don't have an ability to dance. So then, after doing the math when I was 27 and after going to the clubs and going home alone, I said, there's something wrong in this math. I have to do something different. I'm going to start dancing tango. And I took my first lesson April 1998 with Tate and Carla Marano, who is living in New York now. And I never stopped.
Wow.
Never. And then after 6 months, I was starting to teach there at La Viruta, and I did my whole life in La Viruta until 2005 when I moved to New York.
Wow. So I'm so curious to hear a little bit more about, you're saying in the 70s, when you're exposed to tango at first, the dance itself is not that popular. So why was that the case then, and when did it become more dominant as it developed?
Well, I can speak for history, not what I experienced. Actually, when I started dancing in 1998, La Estrella - La Viruta, that were Horacio's and Luis Solanas and Cecilia Troncoso and Doggy. There were 4 partners. They opened this milonga that was called La Estrella La Viruta, which is not located where it's now, that at the Club Armenio there in Buenos Aires, in Palermo. It was in another place. And they opened a milonga like in 1996. That's the story. And then they just moved in 1998 to where La Viruta is located now. And they used to open only twice, Wednesdays and Saturdays, I guess. And I used to go every Wednesday and every Saturday. And there were not so many milongas. There was Canning there and opening only Mondays and stuff. And then I used to go also to Almagro, which is a club, which is a very legendary club. Actually, I went to the closing of Almagro, which was a big sad time. That's back in 2000. And I used to go on Tuesdays there. But I think that like I started being part of the big wave of tango, but tango started in 1996 to be like social dancing, small places. But the dance itself became like a hit when Tango Argentino appeared in 1985 on Broadway in Paris, and then they went to Broadway, and then Forever Tango started in the early 90s. Excuse me, but back then in 1998, it was just starting. I saw now people from our generation. I saw everybody start, like the first moves. Of course, Geraldine Rojas was a star already, but I saw the beginning of course, I don't know, everybody, Ezequiel Paludi, Dana, Pablo Villarraza, El Pájaro, I don't know, so many names.
These are the dancers who were the new wave coming after
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Milonguero crowd, who are sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the people who predate them. And
Yeah, there was a big gap. There were like old people and a growing crowd of young people. Like myself, I was 27, and there were younger people more. Like I'm the oldest from my generation that you know. And there, I mean, I think I'm older than Horacio a couple of years, and Pancho is my age, and El Pájaro, and Valencia Batiuk, and Carla Marano, and Alejandra Guti, Alejandra Martinian. No, Alejandra Martinian, it's older than I am.
Well, that must have been a really fascinating time. And
I mean, in Almagro, that's when I saw Gabito for the first time dancing socially, and I couldn't take my eyes out of him. Like this
what
guy
what was it?
It was this, I don't know, this simplicity, the way he danced, the way he walked, the way that he stood up at the Milonga and Almagro. It's like I was looking at him, watching him dance, and looking at the place, and all dark and cheap red curtains, and the floor was wood and dark in Almagro. It was a very traditional place. It was Sunderland, Almagro, La Catedral, who was at the corner, and maybe La Viruta. That's it. And Canning. And I saw, and it made sense, the tango smell in his body. I don't know how to explain it. It was very elegant, very smooth, the way he danced. I mean, I detected him like in a second when you see this guy. I love the way he dances. Then I wasn't interested in dancing like he did on stage, but he had this aura, this thing that it was so tango smell, like
the tango smell.
I believe you, man. Yeah, like I believe you, man. I believe what you're doing, everything that you're doing. I believe you. You're for real, Yeah.
And would you say he was dancing in the newer style that was all?
No.
No, he was more like the Milonguero.
Milonguero, just walking a couple of turns. That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it.
I recently dug up the earliest published YouTube video of that I could find of Chicho, Fabian Salas, and Sebastian Arce dancing on a stage to alt music. All together, and they have bandanas on. They're wearing jeans.
Yeah, well, that's maybe later. That's maybe 2002, 2003, something like that. There was a development there because, I became very into tango very deep. I mean, I was Mora Godoy. I don't know if you know Mora Godoy. Mora Godoy is Horacio's sister, and also she's a very renowned, actually the most famous tango dancer in the world, if you think about her. And I was her first producer in 1999, something like that. Like I was already, actually, I got something. Look, Mora Godoy became very famous because she used to teach in a TV channel called Solo Tango, that they were teaching tango on TV, and they had the videos. And I became very good friends with Mora. I don't work with her anymore. And I said, I'm going to produce your next video, and I produced it. You see, this is the portrait. Tango basic course. This is Leandro Oliver, who was her partner, and this is Mora with. Oh no, this is Horacio. I'm sorry. This is Horacio with Mora teaching. You see,
back when Horacio had hair.
Yeah, Horacio had hair, and there's all the in the videos. And this is Mora with Leandro Oliver at the cover, and they did a big video clip, and I shot this in 35 millimeters for the video clip in La Boca, and it's great. Then I didn't sell it anymore, but that was like a big video that I did, that big production. And then I created a tango show with her, Tango Emotion, that we went to Europe and stuff, and I took many dancers. I was like the stage manager. I wasn't dancing. I wasn't interested in dancing on stage, never. I was.
Interesting. So but you like the helping other people be on stage.
Yeah, I like the production side of it, So I produced shows. Then I opened a tango house with her, and the partners, the owners, they closed after 6 months of working and stuff like that. And then in 2005, I said, I'm going to the States, and I went to the States with Luna Palacios, and I landed in New York, and I stayed there for like 5 years.
Wow.
We started to work, yeah.
So how come you don't like stage performance, but you've competed in
Oh yeah, I was the first. There's a very nice story. I'll tell it fast. I went to the Mundial, the first Mundial that happened in 2000. Yeah, 2001, and I danced. I started from the from the first 3 rounds. I had to go 3 rounds, and then I made it to the finals with my partner in Obras, which is a very big stadium, and I came out in between the first 10, because they only published the winner, the second, and the third place. So yeah, that was the only time I competed. Of course, when I was dancing with Silvina and doing performances, I had to do a couple of them on stage when I went to Russia and stuff like that. But I never considered myself like a professional tango dancer. I'm not going to rehearse 6 hours a day, man. I'm not doing that. I'm not built for that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, there seems to be 2 very separate camps. Dancers who really love that practicing and drilling and rehearsing, and then dancers who just like to dance a lot, but they don't necessarily like to rehearse.
Yeah, and socially, that's it. I mean, and between the dancers who practice a lot, there are like different layers. You have the dancers who dance in tango companies, you have the dancers who dance in festivals, the dancers who dance in tango houses in Argentina, which is a big thing, and a very good advice for any tango dancer who's just starting to get beat up in a tango house, doing the same show and rehearsals every day for tourists. I think it's a great thing. It's a great training to do that.
Why? What do you think that they get out of it? Just the rigorousness of it, or what's
it's very tough. You have to be on schedule, you have to be on time, you have to do the same choreography every day, you have to go on stage every day from Monday to Monday. They rarely get a weekend, a 1 day off, or maybe they get 1 day off between every 2 weeks, or things like that.
Wow.
I think it's a very good training to be, you will, for females who have to use makeup and be on stage. I mean, Carlos Copelo still does this every night.
Wow.
It's his peanut bread and butter. Every night he dances on stage. He's been doing this for 25 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, there's so many questions I want to ask. I want to go back just quickly to this point that you were making of where tango was at the time that you were growing up. Because for me, as somebody who's sort of on the sidelines studying about tango history, I always hear a lot of confusion, and I have confusion around how tango got really big during Golden Age and then it was almost shut down or it was
Yeah.
sort of driven underground and then it sort of kind of started reemerging. And I'm still confused a little bit about like what was the political situation that was sort of happening or
Okay.
how did it affect tango?
I can tell you, I mean, from my perspective, I can tell you that on TV or in the newspaper or stuff like that, I wasn't exposed to tango at all. Like, I can tell you that when I was, this is another nice story. My parents used to travel a lot and they used to take me to guitar lessons when I was 9. And I used to go with a chauffeur who took me to the tango lessons. And then I would take the bus with 9 years old at night. It was a different Argentina. And I was exposed to tango singing by this guy who made me, it was a very old man, typical tango lover who might died 40 years ago, and he exposed me to a tango, and I was so impressed with the lyrics to the tango that he made me listen to. But going back to the question is, tango was not, and still is not, and this is the big argument I have with a lot of people, a massive thing in Argentina. And tango was like still, I mean, people consider it like in the 60s. People, when rock and roll appeared and the Beatles and stuff like that, people said tango's for the old guys. Fuck it, that's it. Tango
Yeah.
is for the old people, you know. And then according to stories or what I read in the newspaper, there are some documentaries on YouTube. When the military government took power in 1976, they shut down a lot of gatherings and they shut down milongas and they shut down everything. But there were still places. Sundala used to be open, but I wasn't exposed to tango like I saw it on TV every day. It was just this tango show, and they were just showing only the singing part, and the tango people were just on the background dancing. That's it.
Gotcha.
But and then the big wave, as I told you, came in 1985. And then I think it was from 1995, something like that, where people just started to dance tango again. But democracy came in 1983. But tango there was no exposure to tango massively, not at all.
So you were interested in tango, but then you also were interested in acting, and I'm curious
Yeah,
how
yeah.
that came
Well,
into the picture.
yeah, no, because I studied business. I have a bachelor in business, but I never wanted to work in any company or like corporation stuff like that. I knew that I was going to be kicked out in a minute because I'm a very independent guy. I always wanted to be on my own, doing my own. I think the most valuable asset that we have in life, it's time, and it's limited. And I never wanted to sell my time for money, to put it in a way. I would never stand the lunch meetings and the corporate picnics and shit like that, because I always want to give my opinion and do whatever I want, you know. So, but I studied business. And at the same time, I was taking a lot of drama lessons. I always wanted to work in film as an actor, and I took many for many years acting lessons. You know, and also I knew that going to castings and stuff like that is a very difficult journey, and so I always had this, I don't know, this will to or talent to produce. I know how to make things done, you know, and so I kept taking drama lessons, and then I knew about tango, and I started dancing, and by default I started producing tango shows and stuff like that, and kept taking drama lessons, and then one thing took to another, and I started writing my first script. But I was always aiming to film, acting, and being in art. I was a publisher for many years also. stationery and calendars from big museums of the world, importing them. I was always related to art, always, always. Even that I don't know how to draw shit and things like that, but I know how to dance or act and write. Yeah, yeah.
So it seems like this was your calling to eventually produce the film that you recently
Yeah,
made.
actually, yeah. Fermin, that you saw it. Yeah, the first one that I did.
Yeah, I would love to hear what was the process of birthing, because as I watched it, I was like, this is such an intense,
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
extensive project. It looked so
Yeah.
so thorough,
Well,
it really felt like you put so much thought into
oh
all the
my God.
layers.
Yeah, it was a big project. I mean, I used to teach a lot in New York, and one day, a lady calls me on the phone. She said, "Are you Oliver Kolker?" I said, "Yes." Well, she said, "Well, I'm Susana Balan. This is an Argentinian psychologist, lady who lived in New York, and she said, we want to hire you to teach us 2 hours of tango lessons. Me and my patient, who was a woman." A very nice woman that she was in an unhappy marriage, and yeah, and she was very sick, and I knew about this when I met them, and I remember clearly the first lesson. We took the lesson, and Susana, who was like she was making this woman take lessons, tango lessons, to heal part of her process, psychological, or maybe her sickness. She was very sick, and I remember the first 10 minutes of the lesson, Susana kept interrupting me and saying, well, but we heard this, that it's not this way, the way we need to walk, or stuff like that. So I said to her, listen, Susana, I'm very good at this. If you don't like the lesson, that's fine. Let me finish the lesson, and if you don't like it, you pay me this 2 hours, and that's it. No problem. But let me finish the lesson and try to listen to what I'm saying, because I promise you I'm very good. Yeah, and after the 2 hours, she asked, so what do you think? I love the lesson, she said to Susanna. So we became very good friends, the three of us, you know? That's why it's so important sometimes this Kickstarter things in your life, you know? And I was already thinking about this, what else I can do with tango, and I always thought that tango was so rich as a genre that, you know, is one of the only genres that it was developed like in 4 different branches independently: music, dancing, singing, and poetry. Like you can be a tango singer your whole life, tango poet your whole life, tango dancer, or tango musician. So it was so rich, and it popped up my question: what if, or what happens if I can develop a character that speaks only in tango lyrics? Like, would tango be enough to develop a whole story around this ability or this problem that this character might have? And I told this story after the lesson, after, I don't know, 5 or 6 months I was teaching them, and Susanna looked at me. We're very good friends, and she looked at me and she said, Oliver, I think that's a great idea. After that day, this was, I don't know, December, I was in New York, and I bought
And what year is this?
This is 2006, end of 2006, something like that. End of 2007, something like that. And I bought like 5 books, script writing books, and I spent the next 5 or 6 months reading all the books that I could about script writing. And it was such a big revelation, because when I was reading all these books, all the years of hours watching TV when I was a kid, that my parents used to kick my ass saying, don't watch so much TV, you're going to become dumb, or shit like that. And everything made so much sense. Like this is a scene, this is a midpoint of a story, this is a character. When I was reading, at the same time, I was saying, this is so logical, this is so easy for me to understand. What what the hell I was doing studying accounting. Like I couldn't, I didn't understand accounting. I was okay student studying business, you know. I mean, but I never understood accounting like at all, you know. And then I remember that very clearly. I was with Silvina back then. We were together dancing and working, and we used to live together in New York. And we were renting on a house in Queens. And I remember saying, you know what, let me try. I'm going to write this first scene that I have. And I wrote the first scene of Fermin, the guy running, and 3 people are chasing him, and blah, 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 blah. And I wrote it. I showed it to Silvina. And Silvina said, I think this is great, man. Keep going. And it took me like 2 more years to write it. Like I was writing very slow because, you know, it's very difficult to write a good script, if you don't have the gymnastics of it, you know, which I don't at all. I you know, yeah, I'm not a script writer. If I have to write a script, I will do my best. If they pay me, they say, write me a script. But it's, you know, it's not that I have the script writing gymnastic that every writer does, that they write their 4 hours a day and they have deadlines and stuff like that. Not at all. And then I wrote it, and when I wrote it, I finished it, and well, one thing led to another. I met my business partner. I was already doing some small parts in different movies, and one thing took to another, and I shot it, and I had investors, and we made money, and the movie was a good success, considering that it's a very niche type of genre movie, you know. And
When did it, so from the time that you had the first vision, 2006, 2007, to
well,
when it
I
was
started
released?
shooting it in 2013.
Aha.
So it took me like 5 years to find the right people who were trusting me to give me money, and I had the grant from the government in Argentina, because Argentina, like many other countries, except in the States, because it's a real business in the States. In Argentina, like in Europe, the movie business, it's subsidized by the government, but you have to submit the script to the institute and things like that, you know. So it took me a lot of time to write the first script and to make the movie come out the way it was. But I knew that the movie, people were gonna like it very much. I don't know if it was gonna be a big hit or a money maker, but I knew that the story that I wrote worked. I knew it, you know. And also the actor that I had to play Fermin actually is the name of my grandfather, my mother's father, Fermin Luis. And this guy is like, he's still alive up to date. He was born in 1928.
Wow.
He lives in Spain. Yeah, Héctor Alterio is our own Robert De Niro. This guy was the lead actor of the first Oscar-winning movie for Argentina, The Official Story, in 1985. That was the first Oscar that Argentina won in a movie. And when he read, I contacted a friend of my brother who is a big TV producer. He's a big TV producer now, and back then still was. And I said, listen, I have to reach Héctor Alterio. And he said, let me read your script first. This was my first script, you know. So I sent it to him, and a couple of weeks later, he called me and said, Oliver, I liked it very much. I enjoyed it. And I had a meeting with him. And in front of me, he called Héctor Alterio to Spain. And he said, listen, I have a script in front of me. My name is Mariano. And he said, okay, send it to me. And I FedEx him the script. I printed it. I FedEx him. And this is in 2009, I guess. Yeah, 2009, I went with Silvina in Italy. And 2 months had passed, and I had no news about him. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to call this guy. And I called him, and I said, hello, Mr. Alterio, this is Oliver Kolker. I sent you a script, Glorias del Tango, Tango Glories. He said, oh, yeah. I loved your script, kid. He said, I loved it. I said, great. Do you think you can be able to write a letter for me saying that you're interested, just as support and to submit it to the institute, and one thing took to another, and I had him as a lead role as Fermin, and he did a great
Wow.
job. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So the
yeah.
actual shooting process took place over how many years?
No,
It
no, no,
seems.
no. The
No, it
shooting,
took.
no. The shooting take once you have the money to shoot in the movie business, you shoot. It took me, I shot it in 5 weeks,
Wow.
and then it took me like 6 months or 7 months to edit it, and and everything comes down to everything, you know. The music, which I wanted it to have a very big impact in the movie. I mean, the music was written, and I said to Lisandro Adrover, which is the guy who created Forever Tango. I worked with him when I was producing Mora's show, that we used to have a show together. We met. I took him on tour for 2 years to Germany, and I mean, we did 2 tours, and we became very good friends. So I said, Lisandro, I want you to do the music of my movie. I want all original music. I don't want, I mean, some of the tangos we need, but I want original music. And he did a great job, and we are very good friends since then. And he did the music, and it was great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, so now the movie's out. Do you have other vision for other projects, or are
Well,
you?
after Fermin, I became like, because I moved to Argentina to shoot Fermin, December 2012. And then I stayed. I stayed because I wanted to develop as a movie production career, acting, or I wanted to get into the movie business as an actor, producer. My thing is, I belong to an industry where I am able to play 3 or 4 different hats. I can produce, I can write, I can act, I can direct. I'm not saying I'm Cheech on all 4 of them at all. But if you tell me I have to produce, I can make a movie. I can direct a movie. I can act, and I can write a movie. You know. So from 2013 until now, I produced 8 more movies, and for with my business partner, that we buy scripts
I
and we
see.
develop them, and then now I just finished shooting uh, my second tango movie that I
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, with El
So,
Chino Laborde, which is the tango singer. And yeah, I came up with this idea actually when I met you, or no, we met through Audacio's lessons, but this is in 2016. I was producing a movie in Argentina, and then I decided, once I finished producing it, I went to Los Angeles to do a script writing course at New York Film Academy in Los Angeles in 2016, and they told it was like a certified course for 2 months. And they said, well, guys, the first day of lesson, you have to write a script in 2 months.
wow.
That's basically the thing. Do you have to come up with an idea right now in 2 hours? And that's the mission of this course. Of course, I knew that I was not going to be able to finish a script in 2 months. No way. I knew that. But I took the course anyway. But I came up with this idea, and I took it from there, and I kept writing during all this time until now that I shot it this year, the movie. That's why I'm a very slow writer. Yeah, and yeah.
Are there any details that you can reveal about this film? Is
Oh,
it
yeah. The movie, it's about I'm playing the main character this time, and the movie is about a rock and roll producer, Moti Cohen, who is broke, who's divorced. His son is doing his bar mitzvah, and he had a once hit song 20 years ago, and since then, nothing. And suddenly, he has an opportunity to come back into the business when he discovers a stutterer, a stutterer mechanic who sings tango, and he's going to make him a star. That's the song.
wow.
That's the story, yeah. And I did it
That
with El
sounds
Chino
awesome.
Laborde, who's a very famous tango singer here in Argentina, who played the stutter mechanic, and different very good actors, very famous actors actually, who are introduced because I had a little name already in the business since I did Fermin. but I'm not famous at all. Nobody knows me. But the
Yeah,
script.
that's why I kept hearing your name for like
No, no,
no
no. But in the
reason.
tango field. But in the tango field, not in the movie business.
Gotcha.
I'm not famous at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yeah, 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 yeah. Not at all. And but when you write a good story, good actors want to be in it. You know that doesn't mean that then the story is going to be a success. But when you write a good story, actors appear. Like it happened with me with Alterio. You know, it's like that. It's simple as that. Yeah.
And so, in terms of your tango now,
Yeah.
you were here recently dancing. It seemed like you were also traveling and teaching a little bit. Are you still
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
doing that as well?
Yeah, yeah. Since 2012, I decided to keep dancing, but I used to have only like I used to do one tour every year, once a month in the States. That's like the market that I go to, and if I was invited to festivals, I go, and I used to work a lot with Tango Element as well with Julia. We became very good friends, and since then, when Julia was running Tango Element, I was like her artistic right hand. I was contacting every artist in Argentina for her and developing the artistic put together of the festival. But I mean, I was just suggesting. I never took any decisions whatsoever. I mean, Julia was the brain, the soul, and the heart of the festival, and I think she's a very good organizer or producer. I hope she comes back soon. But I used to work for Tango Element to be involved in tango and stuff like that, you know?
So, from the time that you really started dancing, you said at the end of the 90s, that you
Yeah,
were like being,
1998.
yeah. So now it's been over a decade plus, 2 decades.
Yeah.
What is your, I guess, take on how tango has evolved, in particular social tango? Whether you see any, is it better than it used to be? Has
No,
it
I think,
developed?
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's better. I think it has grown exponentially. But again, I always say this and people get mad at me. But nobody cares about tango. In terms of massive, uh, massive market, it's a very selective niche market because it has its issues, you know, in many aspects. It's a music from 1940. You have to learn how to dance to it. It's not an easy dance at all. It's not salsa. It's not Lindy Hop. It's not bachata. It's a very difficult dance. Um, and again, and also I don't know. It has grown exponentially since I started, and it has developed in many aspects. You have marathons and you have festivals, and that's it. But I think that the biggest tango festival that there is, maybe Porek or maybe Majorca, maybe it's, I don't know, 2,000 people go. Maybe in Istanbul, 2,000 people, 3,000 people might go, tops. Any salsa festival, it doesn't come down from 5,000 people. You know, it's
Wow.
like you know, it's so to learn Argentine tango is I mean, it is a social dance, but it's a very selective dance if you think about it. It's very difficult to learn how to dance it well. Defining well, when I say that well, it's like being comfortable enough to be out there and navigate and dance with people and share in the dance. Well, it's a very personal way to say well. What is well in a social dance? Because if you think about it, I mean, there are definitions of well, I understand, but I'm saying in perspective, it's so personal when you're dancing with someone else socially that the experience with dancing with someone else, it's like, this is me, this is you, we're gonna dance with each other for this tanda, and it's so personal that this is you're gonna experience with me, and this is what I'm gonna experience with you. That's it. It's like kissing. There's no way to say, oh, he kisses well. It's very subjective. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
expression, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, actually copied a quote from your page where
Okay.
you said, or I don't know whoever was writing, I'm assuming it was you,
Okay.
that your primary goal is to teach people how to dance tango in the same way that you were taught, with passion, knowledge, care, and more than anything, with truth.
Yeah.
And
It's a
I was
tr-
really
it's a,
curious what that means to you, to dance with
well, I think
truth.
well, very interesting. Tango dancing, it's an expression of honesty. Uh, you have to be honest when you're dancing with someone else, because first of all, you have to, if you're a leader, you have to guide that person, and if you're a follower, you have to understand and trust what this person is leading you to do. And if you don't start from a root of honesty, the the the, the, the dance doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work in terms of if it will feel fake if you're not being honest. I think what it drives people so much once we fall in love with this dance is this truthness that happens when we're dancing with another person in a tanda. I mean, it's regardless the good or the bad. It happens to me or it doesn't. I don't know. It's so that honesty has to be out there when you're embracing somebody. You're embracing with someone else, and that embrace, without all the fantasies of the embrace and all the phenomena that people love to write about the embrace and blah 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 blah. It's like it's an honest action to do when you're dancing tango. Um, you know, and yeah, that's the way I see it.
And I'm
Actually,
curious.
I developed another script. I have another that has to do with this is a new project that I have. Still, this is going to be my last tango script, but I wrote another script, yeah, about tango and capitalism.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. And
yeah,
what
I
is that
think,
about?
yeah, the script is finished. It's like the first draft, but I'm writing because I think that there's a misconception about what capitalism is. And when you go to a milonga, any place in the world, but especially when you're in Argentina, you see that the act of being at the milonga, the way it works, the behavior of people at the milonga, it's 100% capitalist. But not in terms of money, because this is the confusion that people have. Capitalism is, of course, is about money, but people think that capitalism is about money and businesses, and you have to kill your opponent in order to make money and blah blah blah. And has so wrong. Capitalism is the free trade of value. And value is manifested by money, but value is what you value in life. Whatever you want to value, you have to trade it with someone else in order to survive. I know how to make a roof, you know how to make a floor, let's trade. So in tango dancing, the moment that one couple dances together and they are sharing their dancing, they're trading dance. That's it. So what happens, I created a whole story around this phenomenon, that if you see any milonga, you go tonight or tomorrow when you go dancing, you sit down and you see the people, the way they behave at the milonga, and in the dance floor, every couple, it's a little cell that they're exchanging value, they're exchanging dance. There's no social tanda by default. There's no government saying, hey, let's dance. Now everybody has to dance with everybody because I say so, because of the benefit of the milonga. I want to do good, and I want the milonga to grow. The milonga will grow or won't grow regardless what you say, because you have to let people free to dance and express themselves. Regardless if you're male or female, there's one leader, there's one follower, and that's the way it goes and happens. So I wrote a script around that, with the analogy that in Argentina, the country doesn't work. It's a very political script that I wrote, but the country, it's not working well. And the treasure that Argentina has, that it was created by Argentinians, which is tango, which is a pure capitalist expression, is not being people don't pay attention to it. But the people who are at the milonga, inside the milonga, are all capitalists, but outside of the milonga, they're all socialists.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is the intention to cause a bit of self-reflection so that people see the broader perspective? What is the
No,
the
I don't know if
overall...
it's self. No, what does it mean? What is self-intention? No, I'm trying to say, I'm trying to send. I'm not a political guy. I'm not interested in politics, but I wanna send this message because I think that if we don't understand capitalism from the way that I see it, people will still be suffering, and everybody's capitalist, regardless the fact that even they don't want to be capitalists. Everybody's capitalist because you have to trade value and you have to create value in order to survive. So, and if you don't, and so the selfishness that everybody's so afraid of, it's so wrongly interpreted that I'm trying to say, listen, no, man. It's not as progressive as you think it is. I mean, in tango, the capitalist system or the selfishness, it works this way and everybody's happy. Like the reference is that when people are at the milonga and they're enjoying sitting down at the tables, eating, drinking, socially living their lives in peace, it's because it's being paid, that social welfare, by the capitalism at the dance floor. That's basically what I'm saying.
I love that.
That's what I'm saying. You understand?
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and if you speak with different milongueros who are now in their 70s or 80s, and you ask them, so what happens with the guy or the woman who don't know how to dance? Well, they don't dance. They're not saying, oh, we should teach it. They say, fuck them. They have to learn how to dance. If they don't dance, they don't dance.
And what if there's not enough leaders and too many followers, which is the complaint?
I know.
It's happening all the time.
All the time. Well, maybe it's because also I'm not saying that, I think leading, it's very hard, and also sometimes when you say leaders, you're saying male leaders or leaders, period.
Well, I would say
because now
specifically
things have
male
changed.
leaders.
Right,
And,
exactly.
Yeah, specifically male leaders.
Well,
Yeah.
that's it. Not so many men are interested in learning how to dance.
Yeah.
That's the fact that I can tell without being a scientific. I'm not going to make it because I don't have any numbers. I'm not saying that's the truth. But given the fact that I agree with you, it always happens. Or maybe women are more interested in learning how to dance than men, regardless the fact that if you're a woman wanted to be a leader or if you're a man wanted to be a follower. But if you take an extraction as a sample, I can assure that there are more women wanted to be leaders than men wanted to be followers.
Correct.
I think
Absolutely.
It would be like 10 to 1. Yeah. I'm sure.
Do you think what women leading is something that's gradually that the dancers in Buenos Aires are okay with? Like, I know it wasn't allowed for a long time. Is it getting more and more accepted?
No, it's fine. 20 years ago, there was no way that you were going to see a woman dancing. The only one who started like with her torch and saying, "This is me, I lead and I'm teaching," it was Graciela Gonzalez, who's still a teacher, who was one of the first teachers that I met. Great teacher, great follower teacher, but she was a leader. And then Silvina is one of the great leaders that started dancing tango as a leader from the beginning, since she moved to Paris when she was 20 years old. But there are also many other leaders. Now Inés Musopapa and Corina Herrera. Well, Corina Herrera is the leader, and some other, but yeah, they're great. It's not an issue anymore.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Of course. Yeah.
Because it seems like that's the smart thing to do to adapt to the lack of
Right.
male leaders. It's like a lot of times people get into
Right.
this like, well, let's make the existing leaders, convince them to dance with more followers and put them to work. And it's like, well, you're not going to convince them to do more because
No.
they're coming to do what they want to do.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Well,
for me.
You're a very good leader. I saw you lead. So
Thank you. Well, and and that's what I teach women leading here in LA, and that's kind of
great.
my purpose in tango is to encourage women to just get up and learn the other part. So
Great.
yeah. Well, Oliver, I'm sure I could talk your ear off for another hour. It's been amazing to learn
Oh,
about you.
pleasure for me. Of course. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I really appreciate you sharing so much, and you're one of the people who really has seen tango from so many sides, having been dancing for so long, and it's been really fun to get the backstory, at least the little tip of the iceberg there.